Hello and welcome to another Stupid Week. I'm your host, and this episode is sponsored by The Empty Void in Your Life Between Disney Plus series. Disney Plus, it's Netflix and chill, but for kids. There was a lot going on this week. Ayman al-Zawahiri, the second most famous member of Al-Qaeda, got a delivery courtesy of the CIA. Benjamin Netanyahu finally figured out after 12 years that Israelis like to be able to afford things, and the global Jewish conspiracy Control America defeated Andy Levin in a Michigan Democratic primary, but don't worry, they let Rashida Tlaib and Cori Bush slide just to make it look good. President Biden announced on Monday that the U.S. had killed Ayman al-Zawahiri, the leader of Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden's second-in-command on 9/11.
Make it clear again tonight that no matter how long it takes, no matter where you hide, if you are a threat to our people, the United States will find you and take you out.
Even if it takes us 20 years and 2 wars and 4 presidents and we have to kill a whole bunch of people first, we will find you. Unlike bin Laden, Zawahiri was killed by a drone strike. The drone that the CIA used was supposedly a special Hellfire missile that didn't explode. It just used blades to kill the terrorist, a weapon that Lahav Harkov from the Jerusalem Post called a human immersion blender. The official name of the missile is the Hellfire RDX-9, but has been nicknamed the Ninja Bomb by some CIA officials, and they've described it as being hit from the sky by an anvil with blades, which makes me think that maybe the CIA has the coyote working in their engineering department. If you thought you could have ice cream without being plunged into a swirling tub of ice-cold politics, well then, fuck you. Ben & Jerry's wants you to know that the real guilty pleasure of eating ice cream isn't the sugar, it's the occupation of Palestine. Last month, the Vermont-based ice cream company filed a civil suit in the U.S. Southern District Court of New York, trying to block the sale of Ben & Jerry's Israel branch to the local licensee. This would allow the sale of ice cream and its ice cream products in the West Bank to continue. If you had asked me if we would still be fighting about the geopolitics of ice cream a year later, I'd tell you to be quiet, you dirty hippie. But here we are. That's my bad. This week was the 20th anniversary of the Hebrew University bombing in Jerusalem. To celebrate the anniversary of the terrorist attack that killed 9 people and injured 85, the terrorists responsible for leaving a backpack with explosives and shrapnel in the campus cafe are getting a raise. Over the past 20 years, the Palestinian Authority has paid the terrorists responsible for the attack over $2.5 million. Their monthly payments are set to increase this year in commemoration of the 20th anniversary of the attack. You know, as a reward for murdering people. The Palestinian Authority pays Palestinian terrorists a stipend based on how many people they've killed and or wounded. The Palestinian Authority refers to this as their Martyrs Fund. Critics of the program, i.e., decent human beings, call it the pay-to-slay program because even when it comes to terrorists murdering civilians, Americans generally speaking need a catchy slogan to catch their attention. The pay-to-slay program makes monthly payments to about 35,000 families of Palestinians killed and wounded in their attacks on Israelis, and Ramallah paid out around $187 million in salaries to Palestinians imprisoned, jailed, or killed by Israel in 2020. This is all according to a senior Palestinian Liberation Organization official. Just a reminder, they're proud of this. They announced it. This is something that is part of the Palestinian Authority's public relations to their people. The Palestinian Authority has continued to defend its controversial policy of paying stipends to murderers in spite of much international criticism, but, not surprisingly, little international action. If you thought the Iran deal was dead, then you should never underestimate a president who is desperate to negotiate a nuclear deal with Iran. Iran and the U.S. are going to hold indirect talks, again, centered on a text recently proposed by the EU in the latest attempt to revive the nuclear agreement. The U.S. is trying to breathe life into the deal, but they are about as much chance of bringing them to life as giving a sex doll CPR. It doesn't matter how much hard you push, she's not going to love you. Even Biden's envoy, Robert Malley, who has sometimes been called too sympathetic to Iranians, have tweeted out this week, "Our expectations are in check." Negotiations have been stalled since March, with each side saying the other one isn't taking necessary steps to make progress. And in an Israeli election update, Benjamin Netanyahu has finally figured out that Israelis like to be able to buy things and afford things like food and shelter. This is news because for the last 12 years or so, Bibi Netanyahu was prime minister, and these things didn't seem to bother him so much. But this week, we were introduced to a new Bibi.
ממשלה יציבה יכולה ועשתה.
A Bibi Netanyahu that wants to get elected again. If there's one thing that I trust, it's a politician with simple charts that explain how he's going to solve complex economic issues that he's ignored up until now. Netanyahu released his economic plan, if you can call it that, and blamed the rising prices on the country having an unstable government that has absolutely nothing to do with anything that came before it. Why would you even think that? Why would you even ask? It's only the last year that's been the problem. Netanyahu is more or less running against his own record by claiming that there is no one better suited to fix the economy than the person who fucked it up to begin with. Netanyahu didn't give any answers as to why he hadn't thought any of this before, and if elected, any of these plans will be potentially ruined by political expediency. Because that's never happened before, and why would you ask that? I guess we'll just have to see. Current Prime Minister Yair Lapid on Monday said that Israel has other capabilities at a ceremony for the new head of the Israel Atomic Energy Commission, the IAEC. Lapid said that Israel's field of operations is made up of defensive capabilities and offensive capabilities, and what the foreign media tends to call other capabilities. Basically, Lapid is giving you the diplomatic version of fuck around and find out. Speaking of fucking around and finding out,
you're gonna learn today.
After 4 days of threats from the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Israel killed one of their senior leaders of the Iranian-backed terrorist group with a precision strike shortly after Israel announced the beginning of Operation Breaking Dawn. And seriously, these are the kind of operational names you get when you have an army run by teenagers. I think Israel should decide that they're either going to start going like the super American route where they have names like Operation Fierce Determination, or they should go the super confusing route where they have names like Operation Confusing Bunny. Because Breaking Dawn is pretty ridiculous. Was Operation Love Actually not available? That's our show for this week. If you enjoyed, please consider giving us a like. And if you want to get updated when we release new videos, hit the subscribe button like a ninja bomb hitting a terrace in downtown Kabul. Come back next week if there's anything bad happening in the Middle East. And if not, take the week off.